It's been a while since we've done some good old wild speculation on the channel. Let's fix that. Today we're going to be talking over what is most likely going to be happening in the future with Classic WoW. That's going to be for both the current version of Classic, i.e. what Wrath is at the moment, as well as for Vanilla 2. And of course, why not have a guess at how soon things will be happening as well. We also have some leaks to check out too, both for potential harsh Ulduar nerfs and even the possibility of hardcore Classic realms as well. So let's start with the more up-to-date game in Wrath and work our way back from there. Wrath Classic dropped on September 26, 2022, just over 3 years from the original re-release of Classic in 2019. Since then, there have been tons of players making a return to the game to experience what many would consider the best work Blizzard has ever put out. Phase 1 of Wrath Classic though was very much something that was approached with a tempered attitude, with many simply realizing that it's not going to be the greatest patch the WoW has ever had. A re-released Naxxramas wasn't quite as novel when many of us had spent some time in there at the end of Classic. For me, Phase 1 wasn't bad, to be honest, and it was hard carried by the class design updates that came alongside Wrath. I enjoyed the update of having more to think about than pressing your 1 DPS button. Also keep in mind, Phase 1 raiding content didn't drop until 2 weeks after launch on October 6th. This was done so players didn't feel a need to rush, level and gear within the space of 1 week so not to miss a reset. And Phase 1 was also relatively short. Phase 2 and Ulduar dropped on January 19th, though a revamped Naxxramas lasted for about 3.5 months. Meaning today we are soon enough coming up to 2 months in one of World of Warcraft's most legendary raids ever, Ulduar. Now, one of the goals Blizzard have set out to achieve in the re-release of Wrath is to give Ulduar more time to shine, and to have it last longer than it did originally in 2009. So how long was Ulduar out for in 2009? Well, it dropped on April 14th, and then Trial of the Crusader came along on August 4th, so near enough 3.5 months there. Based on this, I would expect a minimum of at least 2 more months of Ulduar, with Trial of the Crusader dropping sometime around 25th of May. Remember, Classic tends to have global releases on a Thursday. It's happened enough times in a row now, so expect it to be on that day whenever it is. They could even have it come out on June 1st, and that would be about a 4.5 month Ulduar in Wrath Classic. Another talking point that's been thrown around recently are speculative nerfs to Ulduar. Now this is kind of in a weird spot for me. On one hand, I fully expect the previous raid tier to get nerfed ahead of the next one releasing. That's just kind of how raiding in World of Warcraft has always worked, and that can suck sometimes. Occasionally you are barely a few % off getting a hard mode, or maybe in the past a heroic or a mythic boss down, and then the nerf patch hits and you go in there after the reset and the boss just seems to fall over. It's disappointing after all that work that you weren't quite able to get it. I've had this happen with Jaina Mythic in Battle for Dazara Lore during BFA. Anyways, if and when nerfs happen, as long as there is notice, then it should be fine. Remember when Blizzard nearly nerfed tier 5 out of nowhere, then went back and actually made an announcement for it and gave players more time to finish it pre-nerf. Ideally, if they say we are going to nerf the content in 2 weeks time in a blue post, it gives everyone time for a final push. Then you nerf the content and then release the new content 2 weeks after that, or something along that time schedule. As for what the nerfs will be, well, again referring to tier 5, which didn't just get the nerf hammer, it got the nerf steamroller. They tend to be pretty huge. Most trash in tier 5 straight up got half their health removed, and then bosses Lady Vash and Kael'thas had their mechanics toned down a ton and up to 40% of their total health removed. Even still, the supposed leaks for Ulduar are pretty shocking, with a ton of health removed from all bosses, mechanics made way less dangerous or occurring less, berserk timers increased, for Algalon a 40% health nerf, melee damage nerf, black hole explosion damage halved, and 1 hour timer removed. The list just goes on and on. Again, these are leaks, unconfirmed and so on, but damn. On top of that, we are expected to be going back to Ulduar when Trial of the Crusader drops for certain best in slot items. That's one of the reasons Blizzard upped the item level on gear in the first place. With these levels of nerf combined with our higher item levels, for many guilds it will be completely face roll. But for way more guilds, it will be realistically the first chance on all hard mode bosses. Ulduar has been the most challenging tier in Classic by so far, it's not even close. With Warcraft logs currently showing around 1,300 guilds, having full cleared the raid with all fights on the hardest difficulty. They use a point system to differentiate between normal and hard mode, by the way, that's why it goes all the way up to 54. Over 2,000 guilds had cleared Lady Vash by the end of the second reset. It's nearing 2 months of Ulduar and it's been way less than that. Ulduar at the moment has to be the casual guild meat grinder, and there just hasn't been anywhere near the levels of individual performance, cooldown coordination, and well, just min-maxing in order to clear content before in Classic. Personally, I'll feel a bit let down if and when they nerf Ulduar, but looking at the numbers here, I would probably do the same. It's just a question of how hard are they going to nerf it. Moving on though, let's say Trial of the Crusader is on June 1st. Much like Phase 1, Wrath is an expansion of ups and downs. Many see Trial as a down after Ulduar, though it's definitely going to be faster, more chill, and a lot more casual friendly if it's anything like it was originally. Phase 1 was 3.5 months, and I think we can put a similar kind of time schedule on Phase 3. This would mean patch 3.3 and Icecrown Citadel would be midway through September. Perhaps this seems kind of on the short end at the moment because that would be 1 year of Wrath from launch to ICC. As for Icecrown Citadel itself, expect around a 4 to 5 month duration for it being the current content. There's also questions such as, do they redo the Onyxia Anniversary event that came out between Trial and ICC, and what about Ruby Sanctum? As for Cataclysm itself, I mean, I really don't have many doubts that's the route Wrath will go afterwards. The main game of Classic is here to re-experience expansions from the past once again. That's literally why it was made. Cata might be a bit too much of a change for many people, but I don't expect to kill the Lich King and then the credits roll. Anyways, after 4 to 5 months of ICC, that puts us around January to February 2024, at which point the Cataclysm beta starts being a thing. This beta lasts for about 2 months, which means Cata Classic comes out around March to April 2024, at which point all the people who have said they will totally definitely quit WoW when Cata drops will totally definitely quit WoW and will absolutely not be carrying on playing because a bunch of their guildies are. So that would be about an 18-month duration for Wrath Classic, a reasonable time frame for each patch, and time included for the beta of Cataclysm. But what if you did want to go back to where it all began? What if you're more of a classic WoW enjoyer? Well, we have some interesting leaks on that front too. Recently there's been a pop-up for Hardcore Realms data mined from the 10.1 PTR. It wouldn't be the first time something new has been data mined from the other version of WoW either, so it's not strange that it's on the retail PTR particularly. I have talked about it on the channel a fair bit recently, but the classic era servers have seen a ton of growth, particularly those taking on the player-created hardcore challenge, which at its root is simply get to level 60 without dying. If your character dies, you have to delete and start over. There are tons of different ways to play and make this mode a bit different too, like only casting abilities from certain spell schools, going it completely solo, or crafting all of your own gear. A move to official Hardcore Realms has been something that's been asked for a long time now. Even when Season of Mastery dropped, people were asking for official Hardcore Realms, and it's looking as though now it could be a reality. Saying that, the original Season of Mastery did have a nod towards hardcore players. Blizzard put in an NPC where you could activate a buff to show that you had never died, and even awarded titles, achievements, and tabards to players who managed to take on some of the game mode's harder challenges, including, well, just hitting level 60, turns out it's not that easy, or defeating Ragnaros in Molten Core without ever having died, which an entire raid group did manage to do. Official hardcore servers also make for an interesting environment as everyone is under the same rule set and restrictions. Death equals delete. Will trading be allowed now? How about the auction house or the mailbox? Usually these are off limits, and if somebody tries to PvP flag in order to grief, they, well, have to PvP flag. Their character is at risk of being ganked themselves. That's another thing, you have to imagine hardcore servers would be PvE. Imagine a hardcore PvP server without any restrictions on who you can attack in the open world. It could possibly work if you lost XP instead of deleting, and there was some kind of villain system where players who were aggressive stood to lose more. I don't know if you've ever heard of of Deadman mode on old school RuneScape, they are full loot PvP servers that reset occasionally with certain safe zones, and they've gone through so many iterations to make the game more casual friendly, restricting XP gains so nobody can get too far ahead, mitigating stat loss more and more, offering grace protection periods for newer players, and so on. And even then, people just call it Clanman mode because organized groups will group up and, wouldn't you know it, be organized. Same would happen in WoW, by the way. But you don't have to be on a PvP server to cause problems. Classic is a very old game after all, and tons of the ways to grief others have been removed over the years. Even on PvE servers, there are so many ways to catch people off guard. Infernals in Classic are aggressive to everybody nearby when they spawn. Rogues and druids can stand on top of a herb or mining node so you left click them by accident and PvP flag. You can nomish universal remote mechanical units to PvP flag them. This one's popular in Westfall with the Harvest Reapers. The good old starter zone Eyes of the Beast hunter pet walking around like an NPC. Expect Teramus the Devourer to be making daily visits to Stormwind from the Blasted Lands. Guards will auto PvP flag if aggro is dropped next to you without you even targeting them, and so on and so forth. Those were just a few off the top of my head. Now for the long-term hardcore players who have been on error, you probably knew about all of these. But if servers happen, many of the players wanting to try the game out will not know about all of these. Now there will be people acting like griefing is a core part of the game and you just have to deal with it. The reason why is because games like Classic, where you can really mess with people, are few and far between. They just don't get many opportunities like this. Remember when Classic came out and everyone was getting an ego over playing on a PvP server because that's the real WoW? Look how it's degraded over time to where we are now, with nearly every single server in the game being one single faction. After all, what is the point of hardcore realms? To try and get to level 60 without dying, or to provide an environment where people can exploit loopholes in the system to trick people into PvP flagging, killing them, and getting them to reset their character. Reminder that in Classic, people actually camp dead characters in Stormwind or Orgrimmar on several accounts at the same time to look out for people running by with well buffs, only to resurrect and try and dispel them off them. Trust me, some people don't have time to waste. They have time to fill. Anyways, it would be really hard to solve all these various ways to trick people into flagging or abusing how mobs can chain aggro, so I don't expect much to be done about it. For what it's worth though, I still would very much like to see hardcore servers and would definitely try them out myself, but I reckon there needs to be a bit more thought put into it than you just can't res anymore. Finally, a quick word about Season of Mastery. So it closed fairly recently, the first season centering its content around more difficult raiding, an increased content cadence, nerfs to boosting, easier to acquire profession ingredients, and so on. It started off well, and the core raiding population kinda dwindled after Blackwing Lair. Hardcore servers could maybe be the next season of WoW, but I can't help like feeling the endgame doesn't really matter in hardcore servers at all, since a tiny portion of the players are actually going to be seeing it. Also, I don't think original Classic enjoyers want season of anything or hardcore, they just want a fresh. Personally, I'm more up for an experimental Classic as opposed to just a fresh, but everyone's gonna have their own ideal list. I would go as far to either say do a no changes fresh, there will always be a crowd for that, or change absolutely everything with no half measures. If it sucks, it's a seasonal server, unlucky, go next. Don't sacrifice something which could be good for something which you think is perfect, because that's just not gonna happen. It would be good all the same to hear about plans or just thoughts regarding the last season from Blizzard though, in terms of what went well, poorly, what's next, and so on. And that's about everything I wanted to cover today. Hoping for some more official news soon enough, it feels about that kind of time where something is going to be happening soon. TM. Thoughts on everything I've gone over today? Drop it down below. And as always, thank you all so much for watching and listening in. I'll see you all in the next one very soon.